You don't live here. You just help out. Those words hit harder than any slap could have. It was a Saturday morning in early fall, and the house smelled like cinnamon waffles and bacon, comforting warm. I was standing by the sink, up to my elbows in soapy water, scrubbing the dishes from breakfast, when my sister Lauren tossed that line at me like I was a hired maid. I looked up from the sink, my hands still dripping suds. My older brother Tyler didn't even flinch. My mom, Susan, just sipped her coffee like she didn't hear it. Like it was true. You just help out. That's what I had been reduced to. The room felt suddenly colder, like someone had opened a window. They all sat there, eating, scrolling on their phones, laughing at some meme Lauren showed them, while I stood with my back aching, still wearing the apron from cooking that entire breakfast alone. I stared at Lauren. Her eyes didn't even meet mine. And in that moment, I realized something. They really thought this wasn't my home, but they had no idea what was coming. My name is Rachel Walker. I was 28 when all of this happened. People say I have an old soul, and maybe that's true. I grew up in Ohio, the youngest of three. My dad passed when I was 15, heart attack in his sleep. After that, Mom kind of disconnected. And suddenly, I became the one holding things together. Tyler was always the golden boy. Quarterback, college scholarship, never cleaned a single plate in his life. Lauren? Beauty pageants and Instagram. Somehow, despite being older than me by almost a decade, they acted like they were guests in their own lives. Me? I was the one who stayed. I gave up a scholarship to study culinary arts in New York because Mom had no one else. I took care of the bills, the meals, the roof, and especially her when she spiraled into depression. I managed medications, I took her to therapy appointments, I kept this house alive. I didn't mind at first. I told myself, family comes first. But years passed. Tyler moved out, then moved back in after his divorce. Lauren never moved out at all. And I became the invisible gear, keeping everything spinning. There was this one night. I remember it so clearly. I was maybe 23. I had just finished deep cleaning the bathroom after Lauren clogged the sink with makeup wipes. My hands were raw from scrubbing, and my back was killing me. I sat down on the porch steps, just staring out at the empty street. My grandmother's voice echoed in my mind. Kindness is not the same as weakness, honey. Don't confuse them. She used to say that to me whenever I cried as a kid. Nana June was the only one who ever really saw me. Sometimes I wonder if she knew what was coming. Because a few months before she passed, she asked me quietly, "Are you keeping a record of everything you're doing for them?" I laughed at the time, thinking it was just old people paranoia. But I remember her eyes. Serious. Sharp. She knew. She saw the writing on the wall, even when I refused to. 2 days after Lauren made that "you just help out" comment, I asked everyone to gather in the living room after dinner. They rolled their eyes, dragged their feet, but they showed up, mostly out of curiosity. I stood in front of the fireplace, holding a plain manila folder in my hand. My fingers were calm, my breath steady. For the first time in years, I wasn't nervous around them. Before we go any further, I said, looking at each of them, Mom, Lauren, Tyler, there's something you all should probably see. Tyler scoffed, arms crossed. What is this, an intervention? I didn't respond. I just opened the folder and slowly pulled out a stack of papers, deeds, bank statements, and a letter with Nana June's signature at the bottom. I held it up, made sure they saw the notary seal. This house is in my name, I said. Has been for almost 4 years. Dead silence. Lauren blinked like she didn't understand the language I was speaking. Tyler leaned forward. What do you mean? I placed the deed on the coffee table between us. I said quietly, Nana left the house to me in her will. I've been paying the taxes, the repairs, the mortgage after refinancing. All of it. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to rock the boat. But since I'm just helping out, maybe it's time we clarify a few things. Mom's mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but no words came out. I had never seen them this speechless. Ever. And it felt empowering. The silence broke like glass. You're lying, Lauren snapped, lunging forward to grab the papers off the table. Her voice trembled, not from disbelief, but panic. "Sit down," I said, calmly but firmly. She froze. I had never spoken to her like that. Tyler was still processing. He picked up the deed and squinted at it like he expected it to change before his eyes. "This can't be real. Nana would have told us." "She did," I replied, turning to him.
She told me.
"She told me because she knew I was the only one actually taking care of the house of her. The rest of you were too busy living your lives while I cleaned up behind you. You make it sound like we abandoned you." Mom finally spoke, voice low, dramatic. "We were all grieving, Rachel." I didn't even look at her. I wasn't allowed to grieve. I had too many messes to clean up. Literally. Lauren scoffed. "So, what now? You think you're better than us because you own the house." "No," I said, folding my arms. "I'm not better. I'm just not invisible anymore." The room tensed. Tyler stood up. "You can't just kick us out." I tilted my head. "Why not? You told me I don't live here, remember? I'm just the help." He opened his mouth, then shut it. His jaw clenched. Lauren, never one to miss a chance at drama, burst into tears. "You're breaking up the family." "Family?" I laughed, softly. "When exactly did we act like a family, Lauren? Was it when I worked 3 part-time jobs to cover groceries while you maxed out Mom's credit card? Or maybe when you two forgot my birthday 3 years in a row?" They were unraveling, and I was still standing. Then came the final blow, but not for me. It was Lisa, Tyler's ex-wife, who had quietly arrived to pick up their son for the weekend. She stood at the doorway, arms crossed. "I always knew something was off," she said, stepping into the room. "I used to wonder why Rachel was the one helping with our wedding, babysitting, bringing casseroles, while everyone else sat around pretending they were royalty. Now I get it." Tyler looked like he wanted to disappear. Lisa turned to me. "If you ever need help getting this place in order, let me know. I'd love to see what this house looks like with the right person in charge." It was the first time I didn't feel alone in that room. I wasn't just winning. I was reclaiming myself. The days that followed felt like standing in the eye of a storm, still, but surrounded by chaos. Lauren stormed out the night of the reveal. She left behind a trail of slammed drawers and passive-aggressive sticky notes. She moved in with her friend Amanda, swearing she'd never forgive me. Tyler stayed for 2 more weeks, walking on eggshells. He tried the guilt route first. "You know," he said one morning over burnt toast he made himself for the first time in years, "this house was always meant to be for the family." "I am the family," I replied without looking up. "I just finally stopped letting you define what that means."
He didn't argue.
By the end of the week, I gave him 2 options: stay and pay rent at market rate or leave. He moved in with our cousin Jake the next day. Mom was the most complicated. She didn't fight. She didn't beg. She just shrunk. She started staying in her room more, the TV always on in the background. One morning, I found a photo album on the kitchen table. Old pictures of Nana June, some of us as kids, and a handwritten note tucked inside. "I don't know where I went wrong. I just know you didn't deserve what we did. I hope one day you'll let me try to be better." I didn't cry. Not yet. But I kept the note. In the middle of all of this, Lisa came back, not just as a visitor, but as a friend. We painted the hallway together, cleared out the junk in the basement, and turned the old sunroom into a reading nook. "I think this place is healing," she said one afternoon, sipping iced tea by the window. "And you're the reason." I smiled. I used to think revenge would make me feel powerful. But now I realize it's clarity. That's the real power. I started making new boundaries. Not just with them, but with everyone. I took a part-time job at a local bakery to finally do what I loved. I began offering cooking classes on weekends, something I had always dreamed of. I even started a small online blog called Clean Slate, where I wrote about rebuilding after family betrayal. It was slow, but it was mine. One night, I got a message from Lauren. Just a single line. "I still think what you did was cold. But I also know I haven't lifted a finger in years. So maybe I needed it." It wasn't an apology. Not exactly. But it was something. 6 months later, the house didn't just look different. It felt different. The chipped paint on the porch was gone, replaced by a soft sage green Nana would have loved. We had a new mailbox. Wind chimes that Lisa gifted me danced softly in the breeze. The flower beds bloomed for the first time in years. It was like the house had finally exhaled. Inside, the energy had shifted too. The living room was bright and uncluttered, filled with books, candles, and laughter. Real laughter, not the kind masked by sarcasm or resentment. I hosted brunch every other Sunday for a small group of friends and neighbors. People who respected the space. People who didn't treat me like I was invisible. Lisa became a regular, sometimes dropping by just to sit and read, sometimes bringing her son to bake muffins with me in the kitchen. We'd talk about everything: divorce, rebuilding, boundaries, forgiveness. Not the kind you give to someone else, but the kind you give to yourself when you finally stop shrinking to keep other people comfortable. And then there was Mom. She didn't move out, but she changed. She started cooking dinner once a week, always using Nana's recipes, like it was her way of saying, "I remember too." One evening, while we were folding laundry together, she said, "Your grandmother was right about you. She always said you had a spine made of velvet and steel." I just didn't want to admit how much I depended on that. It wasn't a perfect relationship, but it was healing. Even Lauren visited once. She stayed for an hour, complimented the flowers, gave me a gift, a coffee mug that read, CEO of Chores. It was her weird way of making peace. And I took it, not because I forgot, but because I had grown. One afternoon, I stood on the front steps, holding a cup of tea, watching the sun stretch long across the lawn. Wind moved through the trees just like it used to when Nana would sit out there with me as a kid. I remembered her voice again, clear, steady. "Kindness is not the same as weakness, honey. Don't confuse them." I didn't. Not anymore. This house wasn't just mine on paper. It was mine in spirit, built with quiet resilience, scrubbed clean with sweat and grace, and now, finally, filled with the kind of peace no one could steal from me again.